Hey, this is Now You Try, a podcast about self-sufficiency, sustainability, craftsmanship, and everything it takes to do it yourself.
So here's the deal, man. It's summertime in Texas. That comes with its own set of miseries, mostly heat-based. But we're kind of in this weird zone where we're between hunting seasons. You know, the season for upland birds and everything is over.
Right.
We're well far away from the fall right now. I'm sure everybody's counting the days here in Texas. And, you know, we're sort of reaching the end of the first growing season. It's getting hot, and we're going to start burning things alive in our garden beds, basically leaving them outside. So we're kind of in this negative zone for if you're somebody that sources your own food and somebody that really digs that's which is our kind of goal, is to get, you know, to buy less and make more for ourselves. We're kind of in this zero zone right now where, like, there's not a lot of great options, so you got to start getting creative. What are you doing right now to kind of buffer yourself to get yourself through the summer?
You know, like you said, stuff starting to not grow quite as plentifully. We're gonna have tomatoes and peppers. Those will survive that heat.
Yeah, that's
so you
true.
can keep having tomatoes and peppers throughout, but it's gonna start getting too hot for like cucumbers and stuff like that. So you want to start harvesting that stuff, and you want to be able to have it all year round, right? Not everything grows year round. Now you can go get everything at the grocery store,
right? And
all the time.
It's great right now. Like, I mean, I'm legitimately like, hey, I want tomatoes for this salad. Like, it's the most domestic thing ever, but it's fantastic. I love it. Like, I can just literally walk outside, or even better, send my 2-year-old outside to go pick tomatoes, because it gives me 5 minutes of distraction for a toddler.
Yeah.
And gives me tomatoes.
Yeah. So. And you can go get stuff year round at the grocery store, but that's what we're trying to avoid, right? So how can I have these cucumbers all year round, or enjoy these cucumbers year round? I think pickling is the best way to do that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've really started to kind of dip my toes into. Not literally, because that's a contamination issue.
Sure.
I've learned that from reading.
Yeah.
But, you know, I really started to kind of dip my toes into that. You know, our friend Aaron on the East Coast has gotten really into it. He did some pickling cucumbers, and that kind of, you know, he and I tend to work on the same wavelength and always try to do the same things at the same time, apparently. So now it's my turn to catch up with him. But, I'm really starting to kind of figure some of that stuff out, and there's actually a lot more to it than I think a lot of people realize.
Well, so it can be very complicated, and there are some very important safety tips or safety measures that you need to take if you're going to can them, right? If you want to store them in an airtight jar for, you know, months or years at a time, then there are some very, very important steps that should not be overlooked. You have to be sterilizing your jars, dipping them in boiling water. Got to make sure they're super clean. You can't overfill them. You have to make sure that your acidity level is at the right amount.
See, that's the part where my eyes start to glaze over. So when I start reading that stuff about getting my pH level right and everything, that's the part where I think a lot of people are like, oh man, I thought I was just going to stick stuff in jars and then open it later.
Yeah, and I mean, it is very serious, right? Because if your acidity level is not high enough, then bacteria can grow, botulism, stuff like that, and you can die.
Yeah.
But if you follow some general guidelines, then you're gonna be fine, right? If you're using, the right ratio of vinegar, if you've got enough salt in there, those sort of things, and if you start talking about fruits like jams and jellies and stuff like that, the amount of sugar and the amount of acid that's already in that fruit is usually going to be enough to make sure that nothing can grow inside those jars. And then making sure that seal is absolutely airtight after you process it is the other thing that you got to make sure.
And there's two methods of canning that I'm kind of aware of. Like there's like a vacuum. There's vacuum sealing. Like, is that I'm thinking about the right way? And then there's like an immersion way of doing it. There's two different.
Well, generally the immersion way is the way to go. You can do it in a pressure cooker, or you can just do it in a large pot, which is usually how I do it, because I'm afraid of pressure cookers. I'm sure there's some awesome Instant Pot canning methods.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had the Instant Pot. I didn't even think about looking that up.
I do too, so I need to check that out. But
But people use pressure cookers when they do terrorist bombs. So, I can see like maybe
they're very effective for that use.
They're very effective in making things go boom if you need them to.
So that can happen in your kitchen too if you're not paying attention.
But the Instant Pot has been great, and it's super simple, and I think they've done a lot to like take a lot of the dangerous mystique out of it, because that thing's really well put together and kind of it runs on a computer. There's less human error happening in there, so I'm happy.
You're
about
not
that.
trying to have to find the exact perfect temperature on your stove to make it just
Right. Right now,
without exploding.
Get my brain out of the situation, and we're going to be much safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, but you're like the method you're using generally. Like, what's your preferred way of sealing things?
Okay, so I'll take my jars and the rings, not the lids. Right, you've got the lid is two parts when you're using like a Kerr or Ball canning jars. You've got the ring and the lid. Don't boil the lid, because it's got a like a wax film around the rim, and if you boil that, you're going to ruin it, and you're not going to get an airtight seal.
Wax doesn't boil well.
Yeah, so you're good with those. But the rings and the jars themselves, I'll run through the dishwasher with no soap, just to get that high heat sterilization.
Okay.
You can also just dip them in the boiling water for a couple of minutes, and that works as well. But then you're dunking glass into a metal pot full of boiling water. So there's a lot of opportunity there for things to go horribly, horribly wrong.
Right.
So I like the dishwasher method because it's quick and easy.
And it's so funny how this is so like such a mystery to people like me that are just getting into it, and like it's such a new thing, and it seems like all this crazy science, but like for hundreds and hundreds of years, this is how people preserved food in between harvests.
Yeah.
Like this is like, even in the South, like, I got relatives like in the South where if you go into their pantry, you'll see an entire wall full of stuff that they've just jarred. Like, the older generations, they just can't get over that idea. It's like, well, why would I waste that?
Right.
Like, why, if I'm not using it, why would I let it rot, or why would I throw it in the
Why would I buy it when I can just make it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why not have that? And, that also reminds me, it's not just like the canning, the jarring. It's not just that process. It's when you look at a lot of people that are real good at it. Like, if you look in there, there's more going on than just like okra sitting in there, pepper sitting in there. Like, they've added flavors. They've added, God knows what. There's lots of different recipes and ways to like add flavor to things. So when you open it later, you're not just getting that thing. That's part that really interests me.
Oh, sure, yeah. And so once you've sterilized your jars, right, then you fill it with whatever you're going to fill it with, whether that's a vegetable to be pickled, a jam or a jelly, or just something that you want to preserve. You get those lids on there. You twist the ring on hand tight, and then you submerge it in the boiling water. The length of time you're going to submerge it in that boiling water is going to vary depending on what exactly it is you're doing. So, if you check out like the Ball canning website, they've got an amazing list of resources for times and temperatures and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that book that's listed on the website, like we put together a quick article with kind of 5 summer canning resources that you can use, and Ball makes a manual called I can't remember. It's Back to Basics, and they're the ones that make the jars, and that book is just fantastic. Like it's for a dummy like me, it's great because it's not really like a textbook. It's not like a reference book. It's got big, colorful pictures, and like I can imagine what that tastes like when I look at it. And all that kind of, and it breaks it down in real simple terms. So
yeah. So as you drop, you put them in the, you got to put a rack on the bottom of your pot because you don't want your glass jars touching the bottom of that hot pot where the heat source is, because that can crack. So you're gonna drop your jars on that rack for a set amount of time. You're gonna pull them out. And you're going to notice that lid that kind of has a popper on it will be sunken in, right? And that's the vacuum seal that you want.
Nice.
So when you push on the middle of that jar, it shouldn't make that popping noise. It should just be solid.
Right.
And that's how you know you get
like
a
in the
good
store.
seal. Exactly. And then you let those cool. Once they're cool, then you can really tighten down on those rings, and then you're good to go. You're good to store the stuff for months at a time.
Well, see, you make that sound so simple now.
It's not hard to do, but it's hard to get right.
Okay.
Right. So the steps are very simple. It's just making sure that you're doing them all correctly.
It's like brewing beer. Like that's really when you're talking about, because anybody out there that's homebrewed understands like the sterilization, how important that is.
Yeah.
And that's what all this reminds me of. It's like, really, like, it's just, it's water, grain, hops. It's what and yeast is what we're doing. It's just those ingredients, but it's the process. It's the number of things that can go wrong in the middle of it. So, but I imagine it becomes habit after a while. You teach this to people, right? Yeah. So this is
it's just a matter of following the procedure and doing that correctly. And then as far as actual pickling, Again, it seems kind of daunting to people, but generally speaking, there's this basic ratio for pickling. It's 3-2-1. 3 parts vinegar, 2 parts water, 1 part sugar. Okay, so usually what I'll do is I'll put the vinegar, 1 part of water, and the sugar in a pot. Bring that to a boil to dissolve that sugar, and then for the second part of water, I'll add in some ice, and that'll cool off my pickling.
God, this is just like homebrewing.
It'll cool off my pickling liquid a little faster because you don't want to pour that boiling pickling liquid on top of your veggies because it'll cook it.
Yeah,
and that's not what we want. We want to preserve that texture, that nice crunch on whatever it is we're pickling, so we don't want to cook it. And then, of course, you'll throw in any number of spices depending on what you want. You can actually go to the store in the spice aisle and literally buy a jar of stuff called pickling spice.
I have a jar of that. I used it. So I use pickling spices when I brine my turkey for Thanksgiving.
Because it's got all the good stuff. It's got allspice and clove and bay leaf and a little bit of chili flake and all that kind of stuff in there, which are all the delicious flavors that you want to put into your pickles. And I'll definitely throw a bunch of pickling recipes up on the website for you guys to check out because pickling is something that I really, really enjoy doing.
What's your, because I'm trying to find, when I start doing it, I want to find a go-to. I want to find a recipe that's going to, that's I can just do without thinking. What's your go-to? What's your heavy hitter?
Okay, so I actually make these bread and butter pickles, and a lot of people will when they first hear bread and butter because it's so sweet, right?
Yeah, right.
These have just the right amount of sweetness, and they got lots of twang to them.
Good. So they're not like American sweet.
Correct. Right. Correct. They're not like sugar pickles.
Yes.
So it's really easy. It's equal parts white distilled vinegar and sugar. All right. So straight up, it's almost like a simple syrup made with vinegar.
Nice.
But it's really tart. And then it's got mustard seed, coriander, turmeric, excuse me, and salt. And that's it. It's really easy. You bring it up to a boil so it dissolves. You pour
not
it on top
not
of
a pick
stuff.
turmeric as something to put in there. That's
it gives it that color, which is really neat. But also, anti-inflammatory.
I was about to say
it's good for your circulation.
A lot of potential health benefits of putting turmeric in something.
Turmeric is like the snake oil these days.
It is, but it may actually work.
It may actually work.
We've been very much moving. I've talked about at length with you. I'm sure I've been to your ear about it, but like we're moving towards, creating a lot more plant-based options in our house, along with game meat, like trying to make that the center of the diet. And like so many recipes, like the plant-based and vegetarian recipes, so call for turmeric, many of them. Because one of the things you're kind of missing is like that umami, that meatiness, in something, and turmeric really gives you that a lot of times. It does. So that's kind of cool to have that on a pickling recipe. Now I'm really interested in actually trying that one. I actually want to do that. Speaking of the game meat thing, we are straight up just in no man's land between major seasons right now.
Right.
We can't shoot any birds, can't shoot any deer right now in Texas.
Pigs is about it.
Pigs is about it, and it's hot, dude. Like I know that's a lazy man's fallback, but it's hard to get out there and bait and stop.
Also, when it's this hot, those pigs are carrying a lot more yucky stuff.
Oh yeah, and they're gross, and they don't want to move around anytime other than early morning, late night. It's tough hunting out there. There's small game year round in Texas. We have that plus.
Sure.
I've partaken plenty of squirrel myself. I'd love to get more rabbit on the table. I think that's just one of those things. Like it's it's the summertime. You got kids out of school. You got other commitments, you got work, all that kind of stuff. It's putting hunting days together gets harder and harder.
Absolutely.
I really think like pig hunting is kind of it's your large game. It's your for the summertime, and you have to think that too. If you can get a hold of one, you got a hold of one last summer, right?
Actually, it was this past winter.
This past winter, yeah. So it's right after deer season.
Right after deer season
closed. So, and that's the time to do it, man. That's perfect because you still got your momentum from deer season.
That high from deer hunting.
Deer.
Like, I don't want to stop shooting stuff.
Rifle's still zeroed in.
Yeah.
No kids have stepped on the scope in the truck like they did mine. Like that's it hasn't happened yet. But I really think like. I'm going to try to myself put more emphasis on small game, because squirrel and rabbit, they're not endangered. by any stretch of the imagination. There's plenty of them. They're good eating. The squirrel requires a little bit of work, but I think it's delicious. One of my favorites is making buffalo wings out of them. I think.
Yeah, I love that.
God, it's so good, man. Just have to tenderize them a little bit more. I think that's the one thing I'm going to work on next time. Maybe do like a buttermilk soak or something like that.
There you go. That'll do it.
Get them a little bit more tender. But I don't know. What do you? You're more of an angler, so you don't have as many restrictions. But what do you? What's your? Where are you looking for meat right now? 'Cause I'm looking for more ways myself.
Well, I've got a freezer full, right? So, but what I want to do is, hunting season, yes, it's a couple months away, but I want to make sure that I have plenty of room in the freezer. So I still have some whole mussels in the freezer, that I want to kind of get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple ways to do that is to grind them up, right? So I can break them down, get them off that bone, get them cleaned up, and grind them up, and then vacuum seal them in a flat pack. They don't take up hardly any space at all, which is really nice. And then you got that anytime you want to do burgers. Or
when you say mussels, you don't mean the
tacos.
sea animal. You mean the
Correct.
muscle fibers of a large animal.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
An oryx shoulder, in the freezer. So, and then actually, as we are speaking, I've got some oryx in the dehydrator.
Nice.
Making jerky.
Oh, that jerky was good too, man.
Yeah, so I think I've really got that recipe dialed in, and I'm excited. Hopefully this time not to forget it in the dehydrator overnight.
Right.
So it's a little more like jerky and a little less like that carne seca, meat leather.
So you're stretching what you got from last season, really, and I think that's a big deal. Like, I got a family of 5, and we've all except for the grind. I do have a big bag of like grind meat left over. Basically, we're done. We're through it. And we did, thank you very much for the Oryx backstrip, by the way.
Oh,
we demolished that quickly.
Excellent.
And we'll be doing the ground meat next.
Well, see, this year you just got to kill more deer.
Oh, that's what I did wrong.
But also, you mentioned the angling. I've got a couple trips planned to the coast later this summer.
Redfish. Fingers crossed over here.
Man,
You're bringing back a lot of redfish.
Some trout. I'm really hoping to get lucky on those guys. And
you realize I'm just
fish.
piggybacking on your fishing skill, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's all I do is like, hey man, that redfish looks great. Is that what are you any good recipes for that?
Well, and I've got a little bit of drum left in the freezer from last summer, so I want to get that out.
Nice.
I've honed in on a really really nice smoked fish dip recipe.
Ooh,
There's a restaurant here in town we like to go to, Salt Traders. They serve fish dip when you sit down at the table, and I was like, I got to do this.
That is.
And my son Sam, 2.5 years old, absolutely crushes smoked fish dip.
Really?
Yeah.
A 2-year-old.
When they give it to us at the restaurant, we just hand the plate to him. And I took some the other day, and he had a full-on meltdown because he wanted to eat it all by himself.
Like, Dad, this is not for the table.
Yeah.
This is for me.
me.
I bet the older kid. I bet Sadie though.
Sadie, not as much a fan
because they get older and they get picky.
Yeah, and I don't think it's pickiness. I don't think like she doesn't actually like it. I think it's more of a power move.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
In the situation.
Yeah. No. I choose what I eat, sir.
I've seen you eat this before. I know you like it.
Yes, I will have chicken fries and macaroni and cheese only.
Yeah.
That will be my diet.
Come on, you used to eat salmon and quinoa.
I know that's the transition that happens. Like that's, God, man, I've got those 3 ages, and you can just see like 2-year-old is like she's just starting to pick up on the older ones, but she still like try whatever. Like bell pepper, like all right, just whatever, throw everywhere down. Like sushi, sure. I don't feed my 2-year-old sushi, but she wants to.
Yeah.
And then, but you see, like we got the 6-year-old who's now just stepping into full on like
oh, I get to have opinions.
And I'm gonna have them. And then like every week it changes. We actually had to make a list of foods that were like good for dinner, and like literally this is like Cheerios and ice cream was literally like okay. So
well, then you're gonna make something off the list, and they're gonna. I don't want this.
Yeah,
it's on the list.
You told me to make a list. And then the 10-year-old he's growing so fast that he can't be picky anymore, which is the great transition that happens into the teen years. Like, whatever, just give me the damn food. Like, I'm so hungry.
I just need calories.
My bones are tripling in size right now. I need food in my body. Just whatever it is. He'll just like, whatever vegetable we make, he'll just like take the rest of the serving tray and just shovel it into his mouth to finish it. Like I take no credit. It's just that he's starving.
Yeah.
He has no other choice. So what have you been, besides, you've done it sounds like you've done a really good job of stretching your meat out to last year into the summer. I have not
Yowzer, watch that phrasing.
Yikes. Yeah, we, whew.
It's a family podcast.
It is. Is it?
No, probably not.
I am talking about family, but I don't know if that actually counts as a family.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
see how it develops.
We'll see how the rest of this episode goes.
Yeah.
The clock's still ticking. Obviously we're both always working on getting ourselves ready for hunting season, getting ourselves ready for the outdoors, and obviously looking forward to going to the coast to bring that fish back. What other stuff are you kind of working on right now around the house to move yourself away from, like we always talk about, like not wanting to buy your way into something.
Yeah.
Not wanting to buy the next thing to, being more self-sufficient. What's happening around the house to make you move that direction?
So I'm actually, I got it out here on the desk in the process of making my own binocular harness.
I see that. It's nice.
Like a chest harness. They're like $100.
Yeah, really. That's one of those items that I think got seen on a lot of top hunters, a lot of Western hunters. And people started thinking, well, I need one of those. And then the price demand goes way up, and they just the prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. And so
for a thing to carry a thing.
I bought a pouch off Amazon. The pouch was like $9. And then I bought a whole bunch of webbing and some clips, and I have way more webbing and clips than I need for just this one. So if it works out well, I'm gonna, make some for some friends and stuff like that. And,
I'll take one.
I can bang out one of these things for like $20, I think.
Wow.
Which is way better than $100.
It's for a thing to hold a thing that already cost me hundreds, the binoculars.
Exactly.
Like I'd rather not spend.
Exactly.
It's the trap of hunting, which is rapidly becoming just such a rich man's sport. I don't know if you've noticed. Like, it's even from the couple years where I've been really, really dialed into it. I'm just seeing things like lease prices, like hunt prices, guided hunt prices. Like everything's just
it's out of control.
People are catching on.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's a good thing that hunting is becoming popular again.
We just need more. We need more people making stuff. You need more supply instead of more demand.
Sure. Yeah, the catch to it getting popular. You want it to be popular so it doesn't die off, and so that regulations don't change such that it disappears,
right?
So that it's not available anymore. So the popularity is great for that because there's enough people. There's more people advocating, for better regulations for hunting and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, it creates that supply and demand situation.
Absolutely. And when you've only got a few companies that are really specializing in this stuff, they kind of get free reign on the pricing, which is tough. And it makes it, when new companies enter, like a company wants to make a bino harness, like the barriers to entry is so high for them now.
Yeah. I'd love to support a small business and get a boutique bino harness, but not to the tune of $225.
Yeah, and and there's so many costs that go along with it right now. Like it takes a lot to research and develop something that's going to go in the outdoors for days at a time. And if you want a licensed camo that's already tested and proven, you want to use that. That's going to cost you money too. It's just I feel for those guys out there, but they'll still get my dollar probably most times at the end of the day. But I do like that. It's such a simple piece of gear that when you think about it,
it's also gonna give me the opportunity to try to learn to sew.
Yeah, which I can't do.
It's something I've always wanted.
Yeah.
I've never really put forth solid effort in trying to learn how to do it. So this is gonna give me that opportunity to sit down at a sewing machine and try not to impale myself.
And just fail a bunch of times.
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of nylon strap over there, so you've got plenty of chances to screw that up. Yeah, I dig that a lot, man. The only thing that kind of what I've been... And our pickling conversation reminded me, the canning conversation reminded me, one of the big things that I've been trying to capitalize on is we've always had an herb garden in our house. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought about how, again, just how much I'm spending on herbs and spices, or how much of our herb garden just goes to waste because I never can figure out what to do with it, or I just forget to do anything with it. And in terms of just getting away from buying more, I built an herb drying rack.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's two pieces of. I'll put it up on the. It'll be on it'll be on the Now You Try website, and it's just really. I built two wooden boxes out of scrap wood that I had from doing furniture project and stuff. Put some window screen on both of them, elevated one, put it on legs, drilled some holes in the sides so there's airflow, and you just pick your herbs, just pick the whole branch off, whatever. You just stick them between there, so they're just kind of floating in space with airflow around them, so they don't like capture moisture anywhere like that, and bugs don't get to it, animals don't get to it, or anything like that. And you just come back, and then you just strip the leaves right off of the stuff, and you got herbs ready to go. I can't believe it's one of those things. Like I'm sure.
Don't toss out those stems, dude.
Why?
The stems have more flavor than the leaves do.
Really?
Yeah, just chop up those stems with the herbs.
Just throw them in with the herbs.
Yeah.
Oh my God. See? Man, I should hang around you more.
You should.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I think we're plenty.
Why are you so obsessed with me? Yeah, but it's just this is one of this phenomenon that happens to you when you do these kind of projects, these little things where you kind of reclaim something that you've always paid for or paid somebody else to do or bought. When you do it, you're finished. That's it. That's all there was to doing that. That's all I really had to do to save this much or this much effort, or just get the satisfaction of having done it myself. Like, that's all.
Yeah, and you get to learn stuff in the process.
Yeah.
Like with this bino harness, I'm going to teach myself to... let's be honest. I'm going to have my wife show me how to do it.
Correct.
Because I know she knows how to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to learn how to do a new thing to make myself a thing so I didn't have to buy a thing.
Right. That's the only reason I've become any good at woodworking at all. It's not because I thought, like, I want to be a furniture. I want to build furniture. I want to be a craftsman. No. I need this stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to learn how to build it along the way. It's very utilitarian.
I get to learn how to build it.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
I have to.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's like what a luxury.
Yeah.
It's like that I don't have to build this herb dryer so we can survive. Like, I don't have to do this so we can stay alive today. Like, I don't have to, so why not take advantage of that? Recapture some of that. It's just, I had that feeling again, and I really took note of it when first time I stripped the leaves off the herbs. I was like, really? I'm going to the store, like to a giant grocery store, to buy a canister of herbs for like $3.99 or whatever, and I don't even think about it. Just throw it in there, create all that waste to do all that, and when I could have just put some stuff into a dryer for a couple of days and then strip it off into a little bowl.
Yep.
You feel enlightened, but also super dumb.
Yeah.
You're like, I paid somebody to do this for me for this long.
Yeah, you get that sense of accomplishment, which is really nice.
It is.
But then you're also like, I'm going to sit down with a calculator and figure out how much money I wasted on dried parsley.
Like how much money I spent on this trivial thing because I'm a big dumb baby.
Yeah.
That never figured out how to do things for myself.
Well, and then when you get to doing like multiple, you start drying out multiple things, then you can start messing with your own herb blends and stuff like that. And that's where they really get you, is when you go buy those spice blends.
Yeah.
So, being able to blend those things together yourself is going to be really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And it kind of parlays in everything that we talked about. Like I enjoy, believe it or not, seasoning food.
Yeah.
Like it's I've sort of I picked up that I've got a buddy that's a pretty good chef. Somewhere in this room.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've kind of picked up on that, and like I get a lot more freedom, a lot more options, and yeah, there's satisfaction, and like this came from right over there.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff really that I'm making came from right over there. That's neat. We've had a couple of meals like that where, it's game meat that I sourced, and then stuff that came from the garden that we put on the table all together, and it's cheesy and it's played out, and I get it, but man, it's awesome.
Yeah. You're like, we didn't buy hardly any of this.
No. Now I spent hundreds of dollars on the gear to get the meat. So, let's not.
Thousands of dollars and hours building and tending this garden.
Right. Well, that's the tax you pay for having a lazy life before you started doing it. You don't get to pay it over time. You just got to pay it all at once in the form of a bow or a rifle or a garden bed or
all up front.
Yeah, like a yard of soil. Like you got to do it all at once. Sorry, you sat on your laurels for the first 15, 20, 30 years. So yeah, you got to pay a little bit now. Sorry, buddy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we got a question through the website.
Okay.
And this one is actually near and dear to my heart because I'm in the same situation now with a big pile of grind meat sitting in the meat that needs to be ground. What are some different recipes you can use ground venison for if you're tired of burgers, spaghetti, and taco meat? Okay. For one, I find that offensive. I don't know why you would ever get tired of burgers, spaghetti, and tacos.
Sure.
I find that offensive, but entertaining that idea. What the hell else can we do with ground venison besides just smacking them together in a burger?
Besides all the same stuff that you always make with ground beef, right? So there's this really cool recipe that you can do. It's called kefta, and it's from Morocco.
Kefta.
Yeah. So basically, you're gonna take that ground meat, you're gonna combine it with some super fine diced onion, and then some spices. We're gonna use paprika, cumin, salt, pepper. You could throw in a little cayenne. You could throw in chopped parsley. You could throw in even some chopped mint if you want to make it real interesting.
Nice, we got mint in our garden.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So in the garden, you can't hardly kill mint, right? So
it literally it grows in our front yard where I don't want it to. Also,
yeah,
so that's sweet.
Like so many mojitos. But so you throw all that in a bowl together. You mix it up, let it sit for a little bit, 30 minutes, so the flavors all really combine. Give that time for those spices to hydrate in the meat. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that ground mixture, you're going to take a skewer, and you're just going to pack that around the skewer in kind of like a sausage shape is what it's going to end up being. Okay. And so then you grill it. And that's it. I mean, if you don't have access to it, it's so easy.
I was ready for like another 3 minutes of stuff.
That's it. No, you grill it. You're basically, I mean, it's kind of like it's like a meatball or a burger patty or something, right? But instead of shaping it into those shapes, you shape it into like a sausage shape and you put it on a skewer. And really, it's easier just to pack it around the skewer. That way, it stays really nice and tight.
Yeah.
And you could also do these in the oven under the broiler. If you don't have a grill or if you don't want to get the grill out and everything, but the flame kiss from the grill and the smoke that you get from that is going to take these just to another level.
That wouldn't even be a bad camp food, honestly.
Exactly.
If you can transport the ground meat with you, if it's a nice casual camp, whatever.
And if you were going to do that, I'd go ahead and mix it all together and have it in a plastic bag. And then you just get there, pack it around those skewers.
Yeah.
Or you could skewer them up before you leave.
Nice.
Same thing.
Because that same mixture of stuff, is that something you could just throw onto some slices of tenderloin or something and just skewer it and do it that way?
The same spices?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why not.
And what I'm thinking is like camp utility.
But generally, the tenderloin is the first to go, right?
That's true.
The back straps, those are all gone. And that's why you're eating
That's why we're doing
taco spaghetti burgers, right?
Yeah, that mixture of spices and herbs sounds delicious. Like I would just want to put that on any kind of meat, really.
Yeah, that Moroccan, it's that paprika, that cumin, right? Those warm spices mixed together.
Yeah.
Some recipes you'll even see a little pinch of cinnamon in there as well. So those are those traditional kind of Middle Eastern warm spices.
Yeah.
That are really tasty and very different from what you're usually
like the salt and pepper that we're getting, like salt and pepper, a few other different, or Worcestershire if you could do that in your burger, just different palate than you kind of get.
Right, it's from halfway around the world.
Right,
so it's different than what you're used to.
And what I of course I'm thinking of like the history anthropological side. What I always think is so interesting about a lot of those big, robust, earthy spice blends like you get like those the Northern African, the East Indian, Middle Eastern, all that kind of stuff, is that a lot of those are for either food preservation. A lot of times food is just buried in those, or it's to cover up the taste of food that may not be that great.
That's why they're so spice heavy usually.
Right. And just, it may cover like this is either meat that's been aged longer than it needs to be aged, or this is just an animal that we're not particularly keen on, but we got to eat.
Well, and over there they're eating a lot more like goat and lamb than they are beef. So it's got a much more gamey flavor.
Sure.
If you're not into that gamey flavor, you're going to add a lot of spice. Well, what do you hear a lot from people about venison? Oh, venison's so gamey. It's so gamey.
Right.
I love that gamey flavor, right? Also, it's if it's really gamey, like funky gamey, it's not being processed correctly.
Correct.
So it's more of an issue with the processing than it is with the actual meat. But it's still going to have some game flavor, which some people just don't eat a lot. They're not used to it, so they may not enjoy it. So a way to get around that is a nice heavy spice blend. Is going to hide some of that game flavor.
Yeah, and a lot of people when they hear heavy spice blend, they really automatically think hot. They get turned off by that. But like this recipe in particular, if you cut the cayenne out of that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really just a little paprika spice that you're getting. It's not really anything
It's
heavy
not going to
like
be
that.
super spicy.
It's just it creates like an interesting texture. It's like I like to think of it as like the spices that they put out at the buffet at the Indian restaurants is probably like the right level. Like that's a delicious mix. The stuff that you order off the menu, like that's going to be different. That's going to be made, but they're trying to make it more accessible for the buffet. They're trying to get people to come in for the lunch crowd. And that kind of, whenever I'm doing like a heavier spice on something, that's kind of what I'm aiming for is like that level of warmth and complexity, not just like sear my delicate European taste buds that are like just not built up an immunity to this. So that's a cool recipe, man. I dig that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And then you can get some pita or some naan
Nice.
and throw that on the grill for just a second so it's warm. And then if you take some Greek yogurt, mix in a little garlic and lemon, spread that on there. Then you just, put that kefta stick on there and pull the stick out. Good to go.
Oh, man.
Delicious.
This is, if we end every podcast like this, it's going to end in us immediately going to lunch every single time. Yeah. We have to work on the order of this stuff. Thank you for listening to the Now You Try podcast. Check out content related to this episode and all other episodes, or contact us with questions at www.nowyoutry.com.